Welcome to Inspiration in Action Television, where you'll meet people who will inspire you to bring your dreams to life. My guest today is Kensel Tracy, who is a marketing coach, also the president of Strategic Transformations. Did I get it right?
Strategic Transformational Strategies.
You see what I'm saying? I call him a genius. He happens to be my husband. And we talk a lot about business because I'm kind of a new entrepreneur. So starting with Inspiration in Action, I've been learning a lot about what it takes to be an inspired leader. But you've got lots of experience in this area, Ken, so I'd like you to maybe explore that a little bit. What does it take today to be an inspired leader? Because the workplace and the work environment is so different.
Yeah, I think it's different, Kath. You know, the big thing in the old days, we had all the hierarchies of corporations where you worked for the man, and you had the underlings, and the president talked about it. And I think it's much more of a cooperative environment today, and where people are, even though we still have a lot of corporations that operate still under the old model, the subservient model, an enlightened leader really needs to look at what they're doing, as what you're doing as a group, as a partnership with your employees. And I think also leadership is all more about who you are, really, as a person. And once you know more about yourself, then you can share yourself authentically with your staff, and that whole leadership area then becomes a lot easier, because you're not out there fabricating some kind of a role for yourself. You're actually being a genuine person in the process.
There are companies like Zappos. It comes to mind because we were in California and we heard about the guy who runs Zappos and what a great guy he is to work for. I think they said after 3 months when you work for Zappos, they offer to buy you out.
Yeah.
Because if you're not a dedicated employee, they may as well pay you to leave.
They might as well pay you to leave, because no, that's right. I think that was a great thing, and that's inspired leadership, is that those types of companies now, where you're actually making a social change and a social difference. So I think we have a generation too that's kind of expecting that now of companies, and they're kind of looking a little bit more about what is the soul of the corporation versus just having a product that's out there. There's always a discussion about Apple. Apple doesn't build technology products. It builds products people love. And it has a relationship with its audience. If it has maybe one breakdown in the next few years, is that when they get away from that philosophical belief that was there that Steve Jobs built into the corporation. Even though he was a hard guy to work for, he still built his products for people, and then that whole thing translated into what we're giving our customer. And I think that's the other thing too. Leadership is putting the customer at the center of the equation. I mean, too often we call customer service and we're put on hold. So what's with that?
What's that about?
Yeah, what is that? So I think this whole leadership thing is changing considerably, and it's more heart-centered, caring for your people, having a better understanding about what they do, how they need, that they're just human. And I think it has to be reversed too with staff, where staff have to look at themselves as a leader. I think that was one thing. That was one area that you and I talked about there earlier in one of our discussions about how everybody's basically a leader inside a corporation now. And I think that's what we have to instill. I mean, there's still some monoliths out there that are still plodding along.
They clunk. I mean, they clunk. When you talk about, sort of heart-centered leadership, and you see these clunky companies that are still trying to do it the old-fashioned way. They've got kind of a negative work environment. They've got unhappy employees. Their product is, it's okay. But the people who are really succeeding are the people who are at the head of the pack. They're the people who are the inspired leaders. And, it happens in small business too, guys like yourself. You run a small business, but you give so much. You share freely with the people who come to talk to you.
Yeah.
And, it's just a different way of doing business.
I was reading this book, Richard Branson's book, Business Stripped Bare, and he talks about how these big monoliths are, top-down organizations, and that Virgin Mobile, or Virgin, the Virgin Group, is actually is a series of small companies where those people actually can make a difference. They can work together as a group. They can facilitate moving forward. And he says that's the future of business. When you come down to the fact that these large companies that say, we got 35,000 employees, but then the business goes south and all of a sudden we have 30,000 employees. And we just got rid of those 5,000 indiscriminately and got rid of them, for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
So,
can you offer some advice maybe for, let's say, small business people who want to be in the front of the pack, who want to be inspired?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, first of all, I think the big thing is like one of the principles in your book that you talk about, gratitude. First thing as a leader, that you want to be grateful for the fact that you actually have a business, and you want to be grateful for the fact that you actually have people that work for you. So I mean, that's
Customers.
and being grateful for customers as well, and especially be grateful for your customer. Again, if you put your customer at the center of the equation, and you add a lot of grace and gratefulness, is that the terminology, gratefulness?
We made it up. It's
Being
okay.
grateful, being grateful for the customer, then that customer actually is your lifeblood. That customer is the one that pays your bills. And so often, corporations think that they spend more time in the corporate game than they do working with the customer. So I think for small business, good organizations that put the customer first. Think about the last financial planner you dealt with that bent over backwards for you. Think about a relationship that you have with somebody that went that extra mile and did something special for you.
And be that. Yeah, love that.
It's like this espresso. We had a issue with our coffee maker, and I phoned the guy up and said we had an issue, and he looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, well, I'll send you one out tomorrow." Not without even a question about, I felt so good about that, and that made me feel really good about the company and the product. So I mean, those are simple things, right?
Great. Those are great tips. Kensel Tracy, I just love you. I think you are such a genius. Thank you very much
I love
for
you too,
today.
Catherine. Thanks for having me today.
Okay.